Hello, everyone. My name is Luiz Marcos Gonçalves, and I will present the work titled Web-Based Methodology for Holographic Learning in Microscopy Patterns Recognition that has been done by our student Andouglas Silva Jr. Actually, he did this work as a joint project between our university and Federal Institute in Brazil and the ISASI at Lecce and also ISASI at Pozzuoli, both in Italy. So our idea is to construct a web-based application for holographic learning. This is the outline of my presentation, and basically I starting with motivation that we faced at the beginning of the world, that is to have a holographic system for microparticle identification using deep learning. So there are some steps for the reconstruction of the images before we can get them into the deep learning part. And this sequence of steps is the acquisition of the images using some camera software or numerical software. In this case, you just have to take and save the picture. And then we have the processing, where we will apply some filters for doing some enhancements in the image. And then again, we have to store these images. And then we have the reconstruction that is done by numerical software. In this case, we use FFT or filtering IFFT and so on. Basically, at the end, we do some defocusing adjustments. So we faced some problems because there is some distance between the holography acquisition itself and machine learning applications. The problem is that in general, research from other fields do not have that much knowledge about machine learning. And when we try to get them together, we have some problems. So we would like to do is to put together all of this and get those research from biology or even medical also to operate the system in an automatic way. So the reconstruction has some methodology to be applied on it. We have done this in a previous phase where we develop a web application methodology to perform the reconstruction steps, and here we join them with the machine learning classification task. For the acquisition, we have used the Mach-Zehnder interferometry microscopy to apply the holograms from a dry test slide with 50 diatom classes that were used, all of them to generate our data sets. So since we have this data set, we can go to the machine learning part. Here you can see the hologram, the microscopy that was used to acquire the holograms. It's basically an optical device. And what we did also in this previous work was to develop a reconfigurable equipment where the distances between the components can be set depending on the situation, depending on the size of the image that one would like, depending if we're using a dry test or not, or if we're using water or other structures. So since we have these distances set, then we can have a specific situation. And we also have put them into our system in order to, but we are going to see this later. So since we have these images, the hologram can be input in our method from this equipment, or we can also save it and get from our web-based platform, can get it from some computer machine. So this is acquisition, no matter where it comes from. Our system supports a MATLAB file that after this phase, we will work in MATLAB. And this MATLAB contains the hologram data and other parameters like wavelength and pixel size and so on. So in the processing step, that comes the sequence operation like brightening, contrast, filtering has to be done. We developed also a API for doing that based on the conva.js that makes easy the work in this application. And then the hologram construction is performed by means of filtering the frequency domain. We use a modified version of the HoloPy API developed by Manoharan Lab at the university to perform the reconstruction using propagation. Then the hologram phase information extracted from the reconstruction is used in the segmentation phase that comes next, where only the objects that will be classified are selected. We use the OSA method for that, or it can be done by hand too. Notice that all of this is with the help of the browser. Finally, segmented the images, as well the training model are selected to provide classification. The outcomes of the classification are then the model prediction. We have here the top 5 highest probability obtained from softmax layer. And we also have the confusion matrix when more than one image is selected. Another branch of this application is a calculator that we developed in order to perform the setup measurements based on the preview work by Kakais, that is from Pozuelo. And in this area, it's possible to compute the distance between the optical components. Since we have these distances set, we can take this configuration, send it to a .stl file in order to be printed using a 3D printer for that. So note that since further images in the same situation has to be acquired, so you can have a easy setup for a physical microscopy if you are going to use it several times. So you can have this possibility to in our work. So our web application basically works in 5 steps. The first step is the acquisition, where we do from camera or from file. And then we use a webcam easy the webcam easy library for doing that, create the metadata. And then comes the processing, where we apply transformations. We use the conva.js for that. And then in the reconstruction, we do spatial filtering, propagation, autofocusing, and extraction of information. And then the segmentation parts use the OSA method, and also we do image filling. And then the learning part, that is not here, sorry, uses the PyTorch framework for that. Note also that we can have in parallel at some time generating the .stl file in order to go to the 3D printer. So here is the interface. As you can see, it shows all of the phases here in the left. For example, here is the hologram acquisition phase. And then here we have the processing phase. Next, it comes the reconstruction, and then the segmentation, and then the machine learning part. All of them is done in this web application hologram classification. And as I said, you can also one can also can send the .sti file to some CAD and then to the printer in order to have a physical setup if you wish to have that. Okay, so our major results is an alpha version of this web application that is available if some of you would be interested on it. We also have this hologram can be acquired from the camera direct or from .mat files. There is these options. The classification works pretty well, more than 90% of precision we have in here. Of course, as every system in development, we have some bugs that we have to fix yet, but we plan to do that in future works, as well as improving the functionality, implementing new ones. We plan to make several tests with different holograms and update this version currently from alpha to beta, and put them stable on GitHub. It's already on GitHub, but we say that it's not stable yet. And then deploying this web application as serve with a good hardware setup in order to perform better the classification, the reconstruction classification tasks. So here are some reference if you would be interested in getting more detail on the previous works. And